And now, just to prove that not all German bikes come from the same manufacturer, here we have one from MZ. Now, if you're familiar with MZ, it could probably be for those very basic, really cheap single-cylinder two-strokes that they churned out for years from East Germany. These were the Trabants of the bike world, and almost classics in a funny, quirky sort of way. But that's not all MZ have ever made. After all, remember, this is the factory that back in the 40s and 50s pretty much can be credited with inventing the performance two-stroke. So they've got a few surprises up their sleeve, and this Skorpion Sport is just such a bike. It's a bit sporty, it's got a bit of handling, it's got a bit of character, but ultimately it's still what MZ do best. It's a cheap and cheerful motorcycle. So let's see what it's all about. Well, that motor there comes all the way from the land of the rising sun, as it's the next to unburstable 660cc single-cylinder affair that powered Yamaha's legendary XT660 trail bike. Hardly the most obvious engine to put at the heart of a supposed sports machine, but then the Skorpion isn't really all about breaking lap records and setting the world on fire. Look at it as a brisk, fun bike that won't break the bank, and you're much nearer the mark. And seen this way, the motor's 50 odd horsepower and more than enough to hop it past the 100-mile-an-hour mark should you feel spirited. There are some vibes to be dealt with, however, which will either endear the bike to you straight away if you're a big singles fan, or they'll put you off just as quickly. Much like the ill-fated SZR 660 that Yamaha themselves made using the XT motor, the MZ is a decent little handler, and unlike the aforementioned SZR, it is not a hideous blot on the face of motorcycling, but actually quite a decent little package. What you've got here is a surprisingly taut chassis, and even though those forks up at the front are really rather basic and not adjustable at all, and the rear shock is again very basic, although you do get the option of preload adjustment, you've got a package that hangs together very nicely. And because the motor is not the most powerful thing in the world, you can gladly thrash this bike to its limits, safe in the knowledge that the chassis is always going to keep you out of trouble. All this makes for quite a lot of fun. But the downside is, like I said, it is a slow motorcycle. And ultimately, any 400cc grey import will see it for dead in any back-to-back straight-line contest. Styling-wise, the world got a bit excited when the Skorpion arrived, and it even picked up a couple of vaguely prestigious design awards here and there, but looking at it now, it's hard to see why. That said, the looks are still easy enough on the eye and even pleasingly sleek on occasion, so there's no need to worry about being laughed out of your local pub car park either. As for the rest of the bike, workmanlike is the way to describe it. You get clocks that tell you how fast you're going, brakes that slow you down just about well enough for the speeds you'll muster from the bike, and even a small fairing to keep off the worst of the wind. The MZ Skorpion Sport is a no-frills motorcycle, but it's a good one. There's a little bit of power to play with, there's more handling than you'd actually expect, and as a first motorcycle or an everyday hack to use to save your pride and joy getting a real pasting, this is a serious bargain that's well worth hunting out if you can find one. Anyway, now it's time for the scores. Performance, 6 out of 10. Just on the right side of very, very flat. Comfort, 7 out of 10. Plenty of space, no major gripes, and that fairing doesn't do a bad job for the speed you're going to get from the bike. Street cred, 5 out of 10. Not so bad in that red and yellow, but the MZ tag is always going to carry a stigma in certain circles. Reliability, 8 out of 10. That motor is understressed and next to unburstable. To be honest, I can't see any major problems on the horizon owning one of these. Value for money, 9 out of 10. Will go on forever, won't cost very much, and should almost put a smile on your face every now and again too.